There are many ways you can use a tripod. As a comfortable footrest, for example, as a wardrobe, or why not as a fishing rod. I'll leave it to your own judgment whether that makes sense or not, but I think we know the answer. Now you may ask, it's a tripod, a thing with 3 legs, and you put your camera on top. What can you do wrong? Well, I am telling you, there are quite a few things you can do wrong. And today I have 10 tips for you to improve not only the safe handling of your valued equipment, but also maybe your image quality. Okay, here's number 1. Have you ever watched a group of photographers getting their kit ready and their gear up, and especially putting up their tripods? Right, everything is initially set up like this. Nice and comfortable in eye height, you know. I don't need to bend my back, everything is under control here, beautiful. But is that really the height you want to shoot from? Doesn't it make much more sense to scout the area first and find your composition? Maybe the standing upright position is the right way to go forward, but what if your shot is down here? Next time, you may want to scout the area first, find your shooting position, then set your tripod up where you need it and take your shot. Don't limit yourself, don't restrict your own creativity. Here's tip number 2. It may sound trivial, but spread your legs. I mean, we have a rather stable tripod here, and this is not stable. So I put that especially on a little bit uneven surface. You see, it's wibbly and wonky. The reason is pretty simple. If you draw a circle around the 3 legs, then the circle is rather small. With a big rig, that can't be stable. And yes, I have seen cameras falling over into salt water, and what happens to a Nikon D800 in salt water, no, you don't want to find out. It's not a very pleasant feeling. Luckily it wasn't mine. So what you do, if you want to stay low, you spread your legs. Putting it in the same place, and now that circle drawn around the 3 feet is much bigger, but the improvement in stability is massive. Spread your legs, keep it stable. Number 3, when you set up your tripod, you normally, not always, we're coming to an exception, normally put 1 leg of your 3 tripod legs into the shooting direction. There are 2 reasons for that. Reason number 1, I mean, a camera with a lens attached is always heavy towards the front, and that weight will be nicely compensated by the leg in front. The second reason is way more obvious. I mean, you don't really want to have a tripod leg between your own legs and making your own life miserable while wandering and walking around and maybe knocking it over. And here's one exception. You're shooting down a hill, down a slope. I mean, this is not very steep here, but if you set it up traditionally, then we have 1 long leg down the hill and the 2 short legs up the hill. And the result is the entire setup is not super stable. So let's see what happens when we turn that around. So now I've set it up just the other way around. 2 long legs are spread out down the hill and 1 short one is up the hill. And the increase of stability is imminent. Test it yourself. And the reason about that is, yeah, pretty much it's all about extending that circle around the feet of your tripod to make it more stable. Tip number 4. Always extend your tripod legs from the top. Don't do the little one at the bottom, pull it out. If you need more height, go to the next one, and finally use your top one. The reason is actually pretty simple, and if we're looking at this, it's about the diameter of the tubes, of the pipes. I mean, obviously the top tube is always the thickest, and thicker means more stable. And they're getting smaller in diameter the further down you go. There are a few exceptions from that rule again. Rule number 1, or first exception, if you want to put your tripod into the water and don't want to risk filling these pipes up. There are some models the water is getting in but hardly out again. If you want to put it in the water and avoid filling your tubes, your legs up with water, yeah, that might be one of the exceptions. Another exception, if I take that tripod for example and I extend the bottom leg and now I compare it with, can you see that? With the top leg of the smaller tripod, they're pretty much the same diameter. That means if you have reserves in stability in the diameter of the tubes, and yes, that is another exception from that rule. Very often I use it with that tripod here, with the larger one when I'm doing seascapes. I really tend to extend the bottom legs first for exactly that reason, because salt water and sand are a natural enemy of carbon fiber tubes. And that brings us to number 5. We cannot avoid the laws of physics. So what I wanted to say is, think when you set up your tripod. What I'm having here is a travel tripod, and the nature of it is when you extend your legs, then the center column is already extended. That's just the way they transport. And now people think they want to shoot low, and they have a construction like this. So what we are having is 3 points spread out wide, touching the ground, a connection point in the middle, and the center column out like a flag post. Guys, that cannot be stable. So the right way of doing is center column in, legs down, spread them as far as you need, and we are ending up with roughly the same height. I could even spread that one section wider, and this one as well. Yeah, on a flat surface that would work. Now we're having the same working height, but what we have is 3 stable connection points to the ground, all going together into one center connection point, and nothing sticking out more than necessary. So if you do it that way. The other way, some people may think it's cool. I think it's not, and it's certainly less stable than when you do it the right way. Other tripod models, like that one here, that doesn't even have a center column. So yeah, it has 2 advantages. I can get lower, and that less stability piece here is just not present. Yeah, and whenever I think I've seen it all, well, there's always something. So what we have here is a Manfrotto tripod where you can swivel the center column into a horizontal position. It's ideal and great for tabletop photography, and here it's the tripod I'm using to film this video. And I came across a guy who was posting not only one but multiple images of his tripod setup, like this. I mean, really, if anyone can explain me the idea behind, I'd be really thankful. He may think that is cool, but I just think he didn't attend his physics class. It doesn't make sense, not at all. And yeah, the message of the story: use the center column of your tripod whenever you need it. Tabletop photography, you need to have the extra height, or you need to extend it through that fence post to get your shot, whatever it is. But in general, keep it in. Don't use it. It reduces your stability, and a setup like this, oh my god, please don't. Here's tip number 6. It's about your tripod head. When you work with it, when you adjust your camera, always make sure you have a firm grip. Release it, or maybe use even 2 hands to find your composition and tighten everything. Some heads have something which is called friction. What it does, if I release this one here, and yeah, could be a little more even. So now I would need force to move my camera. So it cannot accidentally flip over like it would do like now in all directions. So set up that friction if you have. If your head doesn't have that friction set up, it's not the end of the world. You just have to be extra careful when you tighten or loosen your grip. That also is valid for your quick release plate. Let's say you forgot to secure it properly and you want to switch to a portrait format. and your camera is gone. You don't want to drop that on the floor, honestly, trust me, you don't want to. Always make sure everything is tight and secured. Tip number 7, especially when you're having a lightweight tripod, not very heavy, maybe not very sturdy, and especially in windy conditions, you need to add some weight just to add stability. You have a bag with you, and here usually at the bottom you could add some weight. But if you do it like that, just add your bag like that in windy conditions, that thing will dangle around here, and trust me, that will not improve any stability. If you do something like that, always make sure you have, let's say, a shoulder strap. Let's attach that one here, and make sure that bag is sitting down on the ground. So now it cannot dangle still, giving you that extra weight, pulling it down, and everything is fine. Regarding that, when you change your position, remove that weight first. Don't grab your tripod and try to wander wobbly around. That is a recipe for disaster. Number 8 is about the shutter. So, if you have a DSLR, you know there's a mirror in which will flip up when you take the exposure and back when the exposure is done. And every time you do that, it will introduce a little bit of something wonky into your shot. Well, to avoid that, you can either use your mirror lockup with whatever, 2-second delay or whatever, but still, you would have to press twice. Or you switch the entire setup into live view, the mirror is already open, but when you then want to press your shutter, you're introducing movement into your shot. You can also overcome that with a 2, 5, 10-second delay, depending on what your camera can do. Or, top tip, invest just a few pounds or dollars in a remote shutter release. You're not touching the camera at all. Cable or wireless, I'll leave that with you, it's a personal preference, but it's actually an essential piece of kit. Tip number 9 is about, for me, an essential piece of kit, not directly related to the tripod because it's attached to the camera. I'm talking about an L bracket. Landscape photography is not always landscape format. Very often, and especially in times of social media, we want to shoot a lot of portrait format shots. If you have a setup like this, of course our tripod would allow us to do something like that. Certainly, but with that model here it wouldn't really be an issue because it's stable enough. If you have a more lightweight model that is a significant amount of weight, which is now not in the center of your tripod but off center, and not sure if that would be super stable. Another thing is, sometimes if you include foregrounds, let's say a pier with wooden planks, and you set up your composition, now you want to change into portrait format, and all of a sudden that tiny little gap here would make it off center. So it's all not super ideal. The way an L bracket works, what it is, basically it is not only that piece here at the bottom of my camera, it's also here on the side. I'm losing the light, I'm already in ISO 800. Hope you can see it. So it goes like an L shape around it. And what I do, I simply take it off landscape format, put it on tripod, put it on portrait format, and everything is still in center. Not only the weight in the center of my tripod, but also the center of my composition, if it really matters, is still there without me adjusting the tripod to the left or the right. And finally, tip number 10, choose the right material to make contact with your surface. Usually that is some sort of rubber which is attached to the end of our tripod legs. And when we are around on concrete surface, on wood, whatever, it is the choice to go. Not only that it kind of dumps and you also don't destroy anything like a parquet floor in a wedding venue, that would not be nice. It also increases some sort of friction. When you spread your legs widely, and the friction can reduce movement in your tripod legs. But I am mainly outdoors, and therefore my choice are spikes. These here. On some tripods you can just remove the rubber and the spikes are underneath. The little travel tripod here has these extendable, these spikes which I can screw in. I simply screw out the rubber feet and use the spikes. When you set up your tripod on a moist ground like here, just set it up and give it a little pressure. Don't hesitate to put your spikes deep in the ground. You get it already. I am obsessed with stability when it comes to setting up a tripod, and these spikes for outdoor photography, they really help, they really do the job. And this is it. 10 tips to not only improve safe handling of your tripod, but also improve your image quality by having less shaky images or having pin sharp images, how they actually should be. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. You know, at the end of it, you have all these things to do. Click like, much appreciated. If you have a question, leave me a comment or just tell me how great I am. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you already haven't, and next to the subscribe button is a little bell button, and you will be informed about other videos and new videos I'm uploading. Looking forward to see you again on my channel soon.